Hi everyone. My name is Cameron Mail. I work here at Infinigate Cloud as the modern work and business apps commercial lead. So I cover everything Microsoft 365 up to Copilot and a little bit of biz apps as well, but focusing today on Copilot. And I'm joined by
Gavin Rackley. I am the Cloud Solutions Architect here at Infinigate Cloud. So much like Cam, I deal with everything modern workplace right up to Copilot. And yeah, I'll leave it there, I think.
Cool. Yeah, well, Gav, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
I've been, supporting people from a commercial perspective, but I thought it'd be good for us to sit down today and talk about things maybe from a bit of a technical perspective. So, that's the questions, if you're happy for me to ask you them.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So, number one, from your side, what would you say are some common questions or misconceptions that you hear from other technical people around Microsoft, Copilot for Microsoft 365?
Sure. So I think the biggest barrier at the moment is the messaging that Microsoft put out there. I wouldn't say it's confusing, but it's a lot. So they talk about having things like sensitivity labels, data classifiers, data loss prevention policies, all of that kind of stuff. And that they shouldn't be barriers to deploying Copilot, or at least piloting with a few users. So as long as you're confident in your existing permissions model, so things like SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, all of those kind of areas of the stack, then there's no reason why partners and customers shouldn't pick up Copilot and start using it. That's how, as I see it. Those other elements, so sensitivity labels, etc., they are all very important, but they're more about optimizing your Copilot experience. So making the data that Copilot gives you back more reliable and more accurate. But they don't have to be there from day one.
From day one.
Yeah, not a day one thing.
Right. Building off that point then, do you think some of the concerns around security, do you think they're completely legitimate, or do you think they might be a little bit overblown from what you're hearing?
From what I'm hearing, I believe they're overblown is probably not the right terminology. I think there's definitely some concern there because for a long time, certainly with SMBs, there's probably a mixture of who's been managing their data. So is it the partner, is the customer been taking it upon themselves to manage that data? And it's about who owns the data, and are they confident that the permission model they have already is sufficient to be able to take on Copilot, or are they concerned that some users will have access to data they shouldn't have access to? So there's definitely some concern there, but it's definitely nothing to be worried or scared about. And certainly from a perspective of buying a Copilot license and testing it out, that will also give you some indication as to how secure your data is, because when you start feeding it questions and requesting data back, whatever it might be, you're quickly going to see as a pilot user what's going to come back and whether you're seeing data that you feel you shouldn't be seeing, if that makes sense.
Anyone know that until you've got it in your hand.
Exactly that. And there are tools out there that can have a look at that data, and there's obviously professional services that people can use to have us or their partners review their data and work with them to consolidate and just review their existing permission models and go through and make those changes so they are confident in the permission structure. And I say this is a day one thing for the permission structure. Then going forward, you can look at the rest of the data security elements.
So there could be quite a bit to do, but don't need to have that done.
Absolutely,
As long as everyone's permissions are safe, which is going to be for the majority of businesses anyway, right? And then if you're looking to do more work on top of that, can be as part of the rollout. Sorry, as part of the overall adoption phase, but not necessarily day one rollout. You can start and then
absolutely. You can. It's going to be a journey, so it's not. I don't think it's a case of you need to do everything straight away. It's going to be a continual optimization really throughout the process, because naturally the data evolves and the way you use it changes. So sensitivity labels, classifiers, you're constantly going to be changing or adding to them in any case. So it's never going to be we've done that job and it's done. It's going to be one of those things where you need to start with a good base and then keep building it out as you go through the journey, I guess. And that's not just for Copilot, that's Microsoft 365 and all of the data security products that Microsoft provide.
So we've rolled out Copilot.
We have, yes.
Some of our users. Do you have to talk a little bit more about what we did as part of a rollout, sort of where we started and then where we are now, and where you see us moving forward from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Microsoft do provide a kind of a baseline security assessment, if you like. Okay. So it goes through a few pillars. So it looks at the productivity suite, what licensing you already have, and then it moves on to what are you doing around your data security. So are you using SharePoint? Are you still on-prem? Are you looking at, have you got an existing permission structure in place? And then it starts asking questions about the data security, so things like sensitivity labels and trainable classifiers, etc.
Yep.
So we went through that process, and you kind of get a scoring at the end. So they'll say, for example, you're 70% ready to use Copilot, and there are obvious blockers. So if you don't have the right type of licensing, so say if you're only on business basic or business standard, then you won't meet the minimum requirements.
Yep.
So we at the moment we have all of that structure in place at a very kind of baseline level. So we have our permission structure in SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. We have some very kind of rudimentary sensitivity labels, classifiers, DLP policies. And what we've done is supply licensing to effectively stakeholders in the business, so those invested in Copilot and those that want to see what it can do. So I think we've got 8 users at the moment. So effectively we ran that assessment and we made sure that we were happy with it. And we've had those users who are piloting feedback to us and effectively test Copilot to see if it can obtain data, or almost trying to see if it can obtain data that you shouldn't have access to, or you might inadvertently have access to.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. No one's come back and said, this is ridiculous, what's going on. So it's just, sometimes you do just need to get in and use it.
I think even in that way, if people that have licenses did find something that maybe they shouldn't have, it's still within it's people that are trustworthy, right? They're
Exactly.
trust to give a license in the first place, and you're asking them to break it. So I think that's something for partners and their customers to consider as well. Is even if you're not 100% sure that it's ready day one, give it to the people that you can trust, right? And even if then they do break something, someone that they can trust, they're not going to do anything malicious.
Exactly. And it's definitely the idea being that you want to give it to those people who are good at providing you feedback, because you know if there's something that you're going to need to go and fix later on down the line before you roll this out more widely to other teams or other users in the business.
For partners that still want more support, are you happy to talk a little bit more about what we can do already to help them, maybe what we have coming out in the future as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got something coming out in the very near future, and it's effectively a Copilot assessment. So we'll have a free 1-hour call with either the partner and their customer, depending on the relationship and how much they know about their customers, to run through the Copilot assessment that Microsoft have provided to us for small businesses.
That's the one that gives a score, right?
The one that gives a score at the end. So it will tell you in very base terms what percentage you are against productivity suite, security controls, and how that relates to Copilot and what improvements you need to make. So off the back of that score, we will be able to, or the questions that we ask in that assessment, we'll be able to determine what optimizations need to happen going forward. And from there, we can work with the partner to come up with almost a scope of works that will say, we can work with you to implement things like your identifying the data you want classified, how you apply sensitivity labels to that information, and ultimately how you implement things like data loss prevention policies to secure that data as well. So that's what we've got coming out in the very near future.
Great.